Chapter 10. Day 1, 2000 hours. Maria fired her rifle rapidly, stepping back further and further into the cave with each shot. Cameron, in turn, raised his pistol and unloaded on the giant rabbit, probably missing every shot. He was waiting for it to get closer before unleashing his fireball skill.
"We're fucked!" Maria screamed as she reloaded her weapon. "That thing is huge!"
Cameron kept quiet. He had to focus. He knew that the beast would be on them in seconds, and neither of them could afford to meet the business end of that 3-foot horn. The horniest rabbit let out a mighty roar as it pummeled through the walls that Bernard had constructed, sending planks and splinters flying in all directions. Maria emptied another magazine into the monster, hitting every shot, but the beast didn't slow its pace.
"What are you waiting for?" she shouted at Cameron. "Blast it!"
Cameron nodded and hurled his fireball forward, hitting the rabbit square in the face. The fire engulfed the creature, creating a giant burning bunny rabbit from hell. Its pace did not slow, however, and it lunged at Maria.
"Shit!"
she cried as she somersaulted out of the way. The monster's horn tore into the cave wall, sending rock and dirt flying. Maria dropped her empty rifle and picked up Cameron's shotgun, unloading it on their enemy.
3, 4, 5!
Cameron shouted. Another fireball formed in his hand, and he blasted the rabbit again, this time slamming the monster up against the wall that it had gored. It kicked its hind legs in retaliation, making contact with Maria and sending her flying, immediately knocking her.
"No!"
Cameron shouted. He dropped his empty pistol and pulled out his machete. He didn't think reloading with a flaming hand was a good idea. Another fireball formed, and he launched it at the bunny, knocking it to its side. The rabbit didn't move. It seemed stunned. Cameron didn't waste any time. He sprinted past the smoldering boss bunny and hurried to Maria to revive her. He knelt down, placing the hand that held the machete on her back, and another fireball formed. He hit the rabbit with it again, and Maria got to her feet.
"Thanks,"
Maria gasped. She raised the shotgun and fired the rest of the magazine into the bunny, and then pulled out her pistol and emptied it. Finally, she pulled out her own melee weapon, a medieval-looking dagger, and charged the rabbit. Cameron followed suit. The two of them hurried to the head of the bunny and began thrusting their weapons into it. It kicked and roared, but finally, after Maria struck her dagger through its eye, the horniest rabbit died. Its hairless body went limp and lay on the floor of the cave, smoking. Maria and Cameron panted and stepped away from the monster. After a few moments of watching it, they both threw their heads back and laughed, amazed at the feat they had accomplished. They had killed an area boss, as their notifications were saying, and they were damn proud of having done so.
The horniest rabbit, level 5, killed. Plus 830 experience divided by 2, plus 415 experience. Achievement unlocked. I quit. Congratulations! You have killed your first boss. Plus 10 experience. Item obtained. Horny poker. Melee weapon. Rarity. Rare. 30 to 35 damage.
"Wow," Cameron said as he looked over at Maria. That was hard."
"Yeah, I'm almost to level 7 now, though," Maria smiled. "I think it was worth it. Plus, this horny poker thing is kind of cool. And I think the rabbit is cooked, so... dinner?"
Cameron laughed and nodded his head. "Yeah, I think we killed 2 birds with 1 stone with that whole ordeal." As Maria approached the dead giant rabbit, Cameron couldn't help but notice that notifications were coming in at an alarming rate. He was both confused and concerned as he watched.
Player Xander eliminated. Level 4, plus 100 experience. Player Ruiz eliminated. Level 1, plus 3 experience. Player Gemma eliminated. Level 5, plus 250 experience. Player Sean 2 eliminated. Level 4, plus 100 experience. Mangy Wolf, level 1, killed. Plus 20 experience times 4, plus 80 experience. Monstrous Ant, level 2, killed. Plus 5 experience times 40, plus 200 experience. Monstrous Ant, level 1, killed. Plus 2 experience times 82, plus 164 experience. Buck, level 2, killed. Plus 20 experience. Grizzly Bear, level 1, killed. Plus 50 experience. Level up! Congratulations! Your hard work killing horniest rabbit and burning down the forest has paid off. You have reached level 7. You have obtained 1 stat nut, 3 ability nuts, 3 skill nuts. Please allocate your nuts wisely. Your health and armor have been replenished. Ability, craft basic armor unlocked.
Jesus Christ, they won't stop coming, Cameron shouted. The notifications, there's so many.
What do you mean?
Maria asked as she hacked bits of cooked meat off the rabbit and bit into one of them. Her lips smacked as she cocked her head at Cameron. He looked beyond the entrance of the cave and saw the woods blazing outside. He groaned as he realized what was going on. His fire was killing everything that came in its path. Cameron shook his head and sat on the ground. I'm killing people. Maria chewed on her rabbit meat and looked out at the woods as well. She sighed and looked down at Cameron, extending a hunk of meat his way.
Cameron, you have to learn to live with that,
she sighed as she pitied the man before her.
How many people have you killed so far?
Cameron snorted and shook his head. He pulled up his stat sheet for a moment and closed his eyes disappointedly. 7, he whispered. He couldn't believe it. In less than a day, he had killed more people than 99% of people in the real world would in a lifetime. He felt like a terrible person.
Cameron, that's how things are here,
Maria explained.
That is what we do now. Human life is precious, yes, but here, on Happy Island, it means nothing. It's an obstacle you must overcome to survive. So stop pouting, get to your feet and grow a pair.
Cameron groaned and shook his head as another wave of vertigo came over him. Grow a pair. Something about that phrase echoed in his head. He heard Maria's voice at first, but slowly, surely, it got deeper and deeper until it was a man's voice. Cameron gasped and fell to his side as another memory hit him.
I miss Mommy,
11-year-old Cameron cried as he sat in his closet, trying to hide from the world. He looked up into the doorway and saw the muscular form of a man leaning against the frame. He had a belt in his hand and a scowl on his face.
You've been crying for long enough, boy,
the big man growled as he raised the belt for Cameron to see.
I'll let you for the first week, but it's been 3 weeks now. Men don't cry, Cameron. Men deal with it. I swear to God, if you don't stop bitching right now, I will give you something to cry about.
Cameron stared up at the man, and after a moment he realized who it was. It was his father. Perhaps it had been the overwhelming smell of whiskey and sweet ammonia that made him remember. After his mother's death, Cameron was forced to live with the meth-addicted alcoholic of a man. Young Cameron stared up in fear at the man and shook his head.
Please, Daddy,
Cameron sobbed.
Please don't hit me again.
Cameron's father frowned and shook his head.
How did I create such a bitch of a boy?
He stepped forward and swung the leather belt, hitting Cameron on the cheek. The sharp pain from the leather stung and created a welt. Cameron cried out in pain and reeled away.
Please,
Cameron screamed.
I'll stop. Please don't hit me again.
The furious man hit Cameron again, stepping closer and howling as he pummeled his child. Cameron continued screaming and fell onto the ground. He stared up at the ceiling of his closet, and his father reached down and snatched the boy by his upper arm. He picked him up and pressed him up against the wall.
You're going to stop this bitch shit right now,
the man ordered.
Do you hear me?
Yes, Daddy,
Cameron whispered, doing his best not to cry.
Yes, sir,
his father corrected him.
You will respect me.
Yes, sir,
Cameron yelled, nodding his head.
I'll stop.
Cameron felt the back of his father's hand smack against his cheek, and he turned his head, sealing his eyes shut to fight back the tears. He could hear his own thoughts, begging him to never cry in front of the man again. As Cameron opened his eyes, he watched the man take a drag from his cigarette, and then flash his terrifying meth-toothed smile. He held the cigarette between 2 fingers, and then pressed it into Cameron's arm, putting it out on his skin. Cameron screamed and clenched his fist, but he refused to let another tear fall. He gritted his teeth and stared at the man who had created him, and then ultimately crashed onto the floor as his father tossed him aside and walked out of the room.
Another one, eh?
Maria asked as Cameron came to.
I hope this one was a little happier.
Not at all, Cameron sighed as he shook his head and closed his eyes. My life before here was apparently shit.
I'm sorry, Cameron.
Maria lowered her head and stared at the rocky ground underneath them.
Mine was pretty terrible, too.
Yeah? Cameron asked. How so? Maria bit her lower lip and closed her eyes as she looked up at the ceiling. She shook her head and bit the inside of her cheek. Cameron could tell that she was trying to fight showing any emotion.
When I was 13, the Batman came to town, Maria explained. My family, we were very poor, and I remember my parents were kind and good. They didn't do drugs like others in the community. Father worked hard to do whatever he could for us. Mother, she took care of me and my brothers and sisters. Our house, it was small, a single room made of mud brick and with one light bulb run by a generator. The whole family was like that. I had one bed and only a few blankets. I remember I had a dirty doll. I called her Suerte because I wanted her to be my good luck charm. Anyway, one day the Batman came to my community. They offered all the parents good money for their daughters, enough money that they could move into a better place with water and electricity.
Maria paused and shook her head.
Of course, my papa told them to go away. He said he would never abandon his children, not for all the money in the world. He told the Batman that if he ever saw them again, he would kill them. They, of course, laughed at him. They made fun of him, but they didn't hurt him. He wasn't worth their time. Anyway, later that day, my father gave my brother Armando and me a few pesos and sent us to the baker to get a day-old pan dulce for a treat. The baker liked me and my siblings and always saved us a few loaves if he had some. When my brother and I got there, however, the bad men were there too. They wore cowboy hats and had boots made of snakeskin. I told Armando that we should leave, but he grabbed my wrist and dragged me to the bad men. They gave him money and Armando gave me to them. I cried and screamed and begged, but nobody helped me. The baker pretended like nothing was happening. My brother ran away and left me with the bad men. Before I knew it, I was tied up in the back of a dark truck on my way to Mexico City with other boys and girls. I don't want to tell you the things that happened to me after that.
I understand, Cameron said as he reached out to comfort her. Maria reeled back, shaking her head and glared at him.
Please, she said, don't touch me. I can touch you, but you can't touch me.
Cameron nodded and stood up from the ground. In comparison, his history didn't seem nearly as terrible as hers. I don't know what to say, Cameron said. I'm on your team. Let's do this together, okay? Maria nodded and smiled faintly.
I don't know how well I will do on a team. I have been alone all these years.
It's okay, Cameron reassured her. All we need to do is care about each other and help each other. The rest will fall into place. Maria snorted and looked away.
Care about each other,
she repeated sarcastically.
Cameron, this is a lot to ask from someone you've known for only a few hours.
I know, Cameron nodded. But in these few hours, we've been through more than what most people endure in a lifetime. Me and you, we have this terrible thing in common. We have horrible pasts and are currently stuck in a world where we have to kill to survive. I think if we do it together, it will be much easier. Maria snickered, but nodded her head. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, the sudden sound of sirens filled their ears.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the voice of DJ declared,
this is your host speaking. What an amazing display of carnage you have given us today. As the sun sets and darkness falls, I want to congratulate you for making it this far.
Cameron and Maria looked at each other and then instinctively toward the entrance of the cave.
Tonight, I am happy to announce that you have thinned your numbers down to 643 people. What an amazing kill count! 357 people killed in the last 12 hours. You guys really know how to make a man happy.
Cameron scowled at the obnoxious man's voice and looked at Maria. She seemed interested in hearing what DJ had to say.
Anyway, I am excited to share that the battlefield is getting just a little bit smaller tonight. For those of you on the coasts, I would highly encourage moving inland, because in an hour there will be one hell of a storm coming for you all. I'm not just talking rain, I'm talking a never-ending vortex of 300-mile-per-hour winds that'll just tear any structures you've built to smithereens. Your body will be pelted with acid rain, debris will rip you to shreds. Friends, this storm is nothing you want to get caught in. You have 1 hour to head inland, and those of you who are already inland,
watch out for the new people. You may have some easy kills on your hands. Also, to whoever started the forest fire, great job! I'm sure you're enjoying those experience points. I feel the need to give you some more opportunities to level up, so I am officially designating your zone a danger zone! For the next hour, you will have the pleasure of facing off against one of the great legendary monsters of cinematic history. Prepare yourselves, Cameron and Maria, for the werewolves are coming. Ta-ta for now.
That's not good, Cameron declared with a fearful-sounding voice. Do you think we're safe here? A frightening howl could be heard outside. It started as one voice, and then another joined, and another. Soon a chorus of werewolves were singing to the moon, the sound sending shivers down Cameron's spine.
We should go, Maria suggested. We need to get out of this zone.
How do we know when we're out? Cameron asked, looking around nervously.
On our map, it shows our zone flashing in red. It looks like we are only a few miles from the border. If we run, we can get out of here in half an hour or less.
Run. In the burning woods. In the dark. Surrounded by werewolves and crazy people with guns. Cameron groaned and threw his head back in defeat. I'd really like to survive the night, but I seriously don't know how we possibly can.
Together, right?
Maria asked as she gave Cameron a serious but sincere look. Cameron grunted, but ended up nodding his head in agreement. Okay, he exclaimed. Together.